What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Recher Reacts. I am your host, Jay Recher. Hope everybody is having a wonderful Wednesday night, whether you're here in the Tampa Bay area or abroad. I appreciate all of you for tuning in. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms. Facebook, I'm talking Twitter, I'm talking Instagram, TikTok, a little bit of everywhere. I always want to hear from you. Feel free to leave your questions, comments, concerns there, wherever you're watching the program from, and I will do my best to get to them during the program tonight. Check me out on YouTube. Follow, like, subscribe. Trying to get those subscribers up. It's over 100 now. Slow and steady wins the race. We're going to continue to do more and more here. Late night on Retro Reacts. I actually have my podcast coming out very, very soon where I'll be interviewing some of the biggest and best names in Tampa Bay sports and kind of around the sports world. Nobody really does what I do. So I'm going to continue to push that envelope and try to get better every single day to bring great content to everybody out there. um, yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So, plenty to get into on the show today, including what everybody's getting wrong about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The more and more we hear from national pundits about the Bucs, the more wrong things we hear. And it's wild. It's crazy to me that a team that's won three straight division championships, people really don't know. It's wild. We'll get into that here momentarily. Also, why Bill Belichick is on Instagram. Yes, Coach Belichick on Instagram. You can go check it out right now. I'm going to do the same thing right now. I haven't followed him yet, and we'll do it together. Go ahead. Go right now. Bill Belichick. He just joined up today. I'm going to follow him. I am follower 214,000. He's following 12 people: Tom Brady, the 33rd team, the Belichick Foundation, Eli, Burge Nigerian, Pat McAfee Show, Peyton Manning, Omaha Productions, NFL Films, Jordan Hudson, shocker, Coach Podcast, and the NFL. Wow, shocker. Bill Belichick on Instagram. Why and why do I think this is a really good thing for him as eventually he tries to make his way back into the coaching ranks in the National Football League? We'll talk about that here momentarily. Plus, a full recap of AEW Dynamite. A really, really interesting show tonight, to say the least. And I saw some people complaining on social media they didn't really like it, but I thought there were some really, really good things, including what happened at the end of the night between Swerve Strickland and Hangman Adam Page. This was big time storytelling right here. And for a company that prides itself on what happens in the ring, the best thing that happened tonight came when two of their biggest superstars, one of them was in the ring and one of them wasn't even in the building. And lastly, my final words before I head up to Tuscaloosa to cover USF Alabama. I have had this date circled for a very long time, and I cannot wait for this game. Saturday night, Bryant Denny Stadium. They're dedicating the field to Nick Saban. That place is going to be rocking. And I really was hoping that I was going to be able to make it out there to Tuscaloosa, and I am. Credential approved. Place where we're staying. We've got it all locked in. Tuscaloosa. I'll be in Birmingham on Friday doing the Jay and Zach show from there. So I'll be in Birmingham. Zach will be back in Tampa. But I will be on the sideline before the game. Last 5 minutes of the game. It's going to be a good one. I cannot wait. So again, any questions, comments, concerns, leave them there at the bottom of the screen or wherever you're watching. Head on over to YouTube if you've never checked it out before. I have all of my videos up there, but on all of my social media platforms at JRetcher, trying to continue to churn out good content every single day for everybody out there. And the reason why I'm doing Retro Reacts and why I'll be doing my J Retro podcast is I really just want to keep expanding and keep trying to improve and get better. I love interviewing people, so that's what the J Retro podcast is going to kind of be circled around and encompassing. Just sitting down with people and having a nice chat one on one, about 45 minutes to an hour long, and just getting to know some people maybe a little bit more intimately um, in the Tampa Bay area. Some big names, hoping to get guys like Titus O'Neil and Derek Brooks and Rondé Barber. And it doesn't stop. Phyllis Esposito already said he'd be on. I might have to get him as my first guest, but I'll have to wrangle him somewhere, get him near a phone for an hour. That's going to be fun. But yeah, good stuff there. And also, for here on Retro Reacts, it gives me an opportunity to speak on some things that I don't get an opportunity to speak on normally during the show, during a 3 o'clock, 3 hour show. Wrestling talk, whether it's something like golf or tennis or MMA. We're going to get into all of that. I definitely want to talk U.S. Open at some point. What Francis Tiafo has an opportunity to do. Very excited to see him and Taylor Fritz going at it in all U.S. Open semifinal, which is great. So that means one American will be in the final. We need our American men to pick up the slack. The women have been doing such a great job over the last couple of decades. Of course, Serena and Venus leading the way, but you look at the Sloane Stevens of the world, Madison Keys, Coco Gauff. They've done such a great job. But the men, not saying they're not trying, but it's been heavily dominated the last 2 decades by Federer, by Nadal, by Djokovic. Now you see Carlos Alcaraz in there too. We need some of these young guys to step up, and I think that overall will help the interest for tennis in this country. It's a great sport. I played it a lot growing up, and it warms my heart to be able to see a couple of American guys out there facing off in the semifinal. All right, first off, I want to talk about what the national media, what people that cover football are getting wrong when it comes to our Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, and it's kind of weird for people that cover football, and I cover every sport for WDAE. I cover the Bucs. I cover USF football. I cover pretty much every sport at USF. I cover hockey, soccer, every UFC, WWE event. Um, and I think there's just a weird kind of attitude for people that just cover football towards people that cover a little bit of everything. I don't think my knowledge is any less than anybody else that covers football. Just because I feel like sometimes it gets held against you. Maybe people don't think I know as much football because I cover other sports. I don't just cover football. Okay, that's fine. If you just cover football, that's great, and you spend all your time on doing that, that's great. Um, but that doesn't mean that my opinions aren't valid, or it doesn't mean that I'm not at training camp every day. I'm not at every single Bucks home game. Like I'm not putting in the effort too. It's just a weird kind of uh, attitude. It's a weird perspective from people that just cover football uh, against people that cover more than just football. It's almost like a bad thing, and I think that's stupid. I think it's ridiculous, and I'm going to continue to cover football, and I'm going to enjoy doing it so as well. Reason I'm saying that too is that for people that just cover football, if that's your thing, right? If you're just going to cover football and you may be a former player, it is mind blowing to me how you can make some mistakes that are as egregious as the ones that we've been hearing over the last couple of days when it comes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I swear, it's like people don't even watch the Bucks. When you hear over the last couple of days when people are giving their predictions for what's going to happen this season, and they're saying these certain things about Tampa Bay that are just like not even true, it's mind blowing to me. It's one thing if you think the Atlanta Falcons are a better team. If you think that guys like Kirk Cousins and Matthew Judon and Justin Simmons are going to make that much of a difference where it's going to push them to the top of the division and they're going to be a really good team, that's your prerogative. I don't share that same kind of notion, but if that's your, you know, that's what you think, more power to you. If you believe the Atlanta Falcons are the best team in the division, that you have every right to say that. But if you're one of those people that are saying that the Buccaneers are not going to be a contender in the division or not going to be a good team because of things like, oh, they're missing Devin White. Are you serious? Have you not been paying attention? Did you not see this guy get benched in the Ravens game? Did you not see this guy lose his job to KJ Britt, who's starting at the middle linebacker position for the Buccaneers? Come on now. That's a lazy narrative and a lazy take. Also, people talking about a guy like Shaq Barrett. Oh, well, they're missing Shaq Barrett. Listen, I love Shaq. I think he did great things for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but he was clearly not the same Shaq Barrett that we saw a couple years ago last year. He had 4.5 sacks. He wasn't the same guy. Early on in the season, he single-handedly won that Chicago Bears game, but after that, he wasn't much of a factor. Getting fresh blood in there, like Chris Braswell, giving guys like Marquise Watts and Jose Ramirez, and also building with guys like Yaya Diaby, that in some ways could be an improved pass rush from last year. Now, the one thing I'll give you is a guy like Carlton Davis not being there. I know it hurts their depth at the cornerback position, but there's a lot of people, myself included, that think Zion McCollum can step into that role as a starter opposite of Jamel Dean and do the same exact thing that Carlton Davis was doing for a whole hell of a lot of for a lot less money. A lot less money. And then the one thing that really grinds my gears, the one thing that really pisses me off when people are trying to take shots at the Buccaneers or when people are saying that the Buccaneers aren't going to be as good as last year is when people credit Dave Canales for what happened with Baker Mayfield. People are out there saying that Baker Mayfield is not going to be the same quarterback because Dave Canales is now in Carolina. Did you pay attention at all last year? Did you watch any Buccaneers games last year? Did you listen to what any of the Buccaneers coaches or players have said in the offseason? Did you hear did you hear what Todd Bowles said about, oh yeah, well, sometimes Dave had to bail out Baker, but sometimes Baker had to bail out sometimes Baker had to bail out Dave. Who the hell says that about their offensive coordinator? That his plays weren't good enough, that the quarterback had to bail him out. You never hear people say that. What about Chris Godwin not getting the football last year? Chris Godwin didn't have to have a discussion with Todd Bowles. He didn't have to have a discussion with Baker Mayfield. The guy he had a discussion with was Dave Canales. Dave Canales, the offensive coordinator, Dave Canales, the offensive coordinator at the end of the year in week 18, talking about still trying to find his way and build an identity for this team. That guy leaving here, that is the reason that Baker is going to regress. We've said it on the show. I think Dave Canales is going to be a better head coach than an offensive coordinator. He calling plays it didn't seem to suit him. Liam Cohen, on the other hand, and you can tell through just 3 preseason games, this is what this guy does. You can tell just in training camp. I've been there for 10 years. Last year, I don't think anybody really had a clue what the hell Dave Canales was doing. Look at some of the games in the preseason this year for Carolina. And I know they don't show everything in the preseason. You got to wait for the regular season. But there is some kind of basic principles when you look at offensive structure and offensive schemes. Look at Liam Cohen in the preseason. Look at Dave Canales in the preseason. And it's not always just based purely on points because the starters aren't in there. But just look at some of the routes for the Buccaneers guys. Even the second and third stringers wide open. You look at Dave Canales, simple out throws to the outside to the numbers, unable to complete the passes. It was the same thing we saw last year. What kind of separation did we see from Mike Evans and Chris Godwin in that Dave Canales offense last year? Not much. It's going to be much better this year. So again, if you think the Buccaneers aren't going to be as good as the Falcons this year because of the moves that the Falcons made, hey, more power to you. I don't agree with you, but that's your prerogative. Agree to disagree. But if you're going to sit there and you're going to tell me that the Buccaneers are going to be worse because they lost guys like Devin White, Shaq Barrett, and Dave Canales, what you're telling me is that you didn't pay attention at all last year to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You didn't listen to what anybody said that had a clue about this team. And your judgment is skewed when you're trying to critique whether or not this team is going to be successful in the 2024 season. Asinine. It's asinine to say that those things. For people that consider themselves experts, you're an expert. You're a person that follows this game, and that's what you're going to say? More people better pay attention to the Buccaneers. And that's another reason why I hope the Bucs are good in 2024. Because more people need to pay attention. This is a team on the fly. In the middle of winning 3 division championships, went from one of the oldest teams in the league to one of the youngest teams in the league. They got a veteran coach. They got a veteran quarterback. And, oh, yeah, they have a Levante David, who's going to be a Ring of Honor for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And you got Mike Evans, who's going to be a Hall of Famer. Then you got a bunch of good young players led by Tristan Wirfs on the offensive side of the ball and Antoine Winfield Jr. on the defensive side of the ball. Again, you can hate on the Buccaneers all you want because you think the Falcons are better. But if you're going to tell me that they're not going to be as good as they were last year because of the people that weren't here, because of the people that aren't here anymore, what are you smoking? Give me some of that. All right, let's switch gears a little bit. I want to talk about Bill Belichick and one of the greatest coaches of all time, if not the greatest coach of all time. I have been one of those few people that I think that Bill Belichick is he's slowly morphing into a guy that is going to be much more accepted when it comes to him coaching in the National Football League once again. When you're successful, or when you're as successful as Bill Belichick was with the New England Patriots, it is very, very difficult to change your ways, because what has gotten you to that point to be arguably the most successful head coach in NFL history, um, you don't want to mess with that recipe, right? You don't want to change too much. Once you start veering away, then in your mind you may lose your identity. But what ends up happening is that times change and the league changes, and you need to change with the times or you get left behind. This kind of sounds like the conversation that we were having last or 2 nights ago about Dabo Sweeney and Clemson. You have to adapt or die. You have to change with the times. And Bill Belichick, it worked for a very long time in New England with Tom Brady. But eventually his message kind of got old, and his team got older. Tom Brady moved on, and it just wasn't the same. And Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots, they parted ways. And Bill Belichick wants to get back on the sideline. There's two things that Bill wants to do. He wants to he wants to prove that he can win without Tom Brady, and he wants that all-time wins record. He wants to beat Don Shula. He wants to be number 1. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But one thing Bill needed to do is he needed to clean up his image a little bit. He needed to show people he's not this big old grump that is just super difficult to get along with. He needed to show people a softer side. I think you saw it in the NFL. I think it was the NFL 100 a couple years ago with Chris Collinsworth, when all he was doing was just talking football with current and former players and coaches, and it was fantastic. I was watching that on TV going, who the hell's that guy? That's the guy that needs to be a head coach. That guy's cool. That guy knows his stuff. And you're starting to see that. Bill Belichick going on Pat McAfee. Bill Belichick today joining Instagram. He's trying to show people that you can teach an old dog new tricks. He's a brilliant football mind. And I guarantee you, when he gets another crack at it, and I'm sure as hell that he will, I guarantee you this will be his only off season. Not This will be the only year that he's not coaching. He will definitely be back on the sideline next year. Could be the Giants, could be the Eagles, could be the Cowboys. I think it'll be in the NFC East. Could be, maybe the Raiders. Maybe it could be one of those teams that are one and done. Keep an eye on the NFC East. I think those three teams make a lot of sense for a multitude of reasons. But Bill knows exactly what he's doing. He's positioning himself in the public eye to let everybody know, like, hey, man, like, I got a cool side to me too. I can change. I can evolve. I can adapt. That doesn't sound like Bill Belichick, does it? But that's Bill Belichick in New England. This is a new day for Bill Belichick. Let's not forget, we saw it we saw it firsthand here in the Tampa Bay area. Tampa Tom. Everybody thought Tom Brady was rigid and couldn't have any fun. And then, oh yeah, he had a boat parade, an avocado tequila that became a thing. So don't put it past some of the greatest minds when it comes to sports. Them, and of course, sometimes they have to go, and hit the dirt and really go down in the cellar. But don't count those guys out, because when people that have been that successful get another chip on their shoulder and they have something to prove, that is very dangerous. Very dangerous. And I like this new Bill Belichick. I like that he's on Instagram. I like that he's making fun of himself a little bit. That type of thing is definitely going to help you in the public eye, and I certainly think it'll help him get back on the sideline next year. That's another reason why I'm not counting out a guy like Aaron Rodgers. You can dislike Aaron Rodgers all you like. You could think he's weird. You may not agree with the things that he said, but you cannot deny that Aaron Rodgers is one of the most talented individuals to ever walk this earth uh, to throw a football. MVPs, man. MVPs, Super Bowl champ. The way he's able to, you know, throw the ball without his feet being set and just knowing. I mean, he's incredible. He's incredible. There's too many people that want to judge professional athletes based on their personality. I mean, personality is one thing. You don't have to be a fan of his. That's great. But call a spade a freaking spade. If a guy's legit, just tip your cap and move on. He's one of the greatest quarterbacks we've ever seen. People thought Tom Brady was cooked after losing to the Tennessee Titans. Remember Logan Ryan picking him off? They thought he was done. Going to Tampa Bay, nobody picked the Bucs to win. Nobody picked the Bucs to make the Super Bowl. Nobody picked the Bucs to make the playoffs. Stop counting out all-time greats. They don't have to have a long career after the fact. They don't have to have their second scene doesn't have to be as long as their first scene. We saw that with Tom. But man, for 1 year, for 2 years, for 3 years, catching that lightning in a bottle, special. Those are special human beings, man. They can do things that a lot of us can't even dream of. All right, make sure you follow me on all social media platforms again: Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, TikTok at JRetcher. Like and subscribe on YouTube as well. Let's get through the AEW Dynamite. Let's recap that. AEW Dynamite tonight from Milwaukee kicks off with Daniel Garcia and MJF going back and forth. I don't know if you guys saw this, but MJF's ear looks so weird. It was like a different shade than the rest of his face. That maybe that's one thing I just can't wrap my head around when it comes to MJF. Like the spray tan, the fake tanning is just it's just a lot, man. It's a lot for me. So they go back and forth. Daniel Garcia calls him fake. He goes up to try to attack MJF. MJF lays him out. All of a sudden, Garcia, who's supposed to be this big badass, now he's like unconscious and he's bleeding. And MJF, like it was weird. He kissed his bloody forehead and then he walked away. I don't know. I don't get it. Where do they go from here? People love and it's like cheap heat all the time. Like you yell at the fans suck. Don't these people like it's just what's the deal with MJF? What kind of long term storyline are we doing here? Now, I mean, Daniel Garcia, does he really look like a challenger to MJF? MJF was just wrestling Will Ospreay, who I think is the best wrestler in the world. Now Daniel Garcia, you hit him with the tombstone pile driver off the ropes, knocked you out for weeks, and now one shot, you're unconscious. Like some of the storyline with AEW really gets me. And then a really good match between Kazuchika Okada and Kyle Fletcher. Okada hits him with a low blow, kind of pulls the referee and hits him with the low blow, follows it up with the Rainmaker. And you still see Okada really get a nice ovation from the fans when he comes out. And I don't know, man. I hate that he's in this spot. I hate that he's the first match and he's fighting he's fighting with the Continental Championship. Like this is a guy that's one of the best wrestlers in the world. Like he knows exactly what to do. And I just feel like they're minimizing him so much. He's a really good storyteller. He's got such an incredible drop kick. I wanted him in WWE so bad. Even if he's not in WWE, that's fine. I just think that he can perform the WWE style, and I think he can be a mega star. And if that's the case, AEW, like top of the card, like this is a champion fighter right here. This is the guy that should be wrestling for the big belt. Like why do we have like Jack Perry? He's the TNT champion, but he's wrestling Daniel Bryan, like Brian Danielson. Like why do they do this? AEW continuously has their champions fighting in different storylines. Like somebody should be challenging for the TNT belt. Why is Will Ospreay in a six-man tag with two guys that he barely even knows in the conglomeration? So you just leave Briscoe out of it? Like the stuff doesn't match up. Like you have so many belts. Where's the storylines for all these belts? I don't get it. It just doesn't make sense. John Moxley and Marina Shafir start taking people back. People start taking people out backstage. Moxley comes to the ring, and after last week of saying this company is not yours anymore, everybody's really excited. Now he's calling out Darby Allin, even though he's not there tonight. I don't know. That as much as everybody was excited to see if it can build on what happened last week, this fell flat in a huge way. Backstage, Chris Jericho. I really like this segment. Orange Cassidy from a couple of years ago when they had the mimosa match. And Cassidy soaked Jericho's jacket. It was $7,000, and Jericho saying that Brian Keith is going to take that money out of his ass on Collision. And here comes Orange Cassidy. He walks right up to, to Brian Keith and totally ignores Chris Jericho, saying if he beats him, that he'll give you the money, 7,000 in cash. That was a little thing that was very very clever. Mariah May beating Nyla Rose with Storm Zero to score the pinfall victory. You know, she's your women's world champion, and she's just fighting in a title match against Nyla Rose. Like, no real setup, no nothing. Hated that. A vignette airs for Deanna Perrazzo. Love what she did with TNA. I just don't see where she fits into this whole thing. She's going to face Hikaru Shida this Friday on Collision, but Shida's fighting Saturday against Mercedes Monet, so of course she's not going to lose. Speaking of Mercedes Monet, she comes to the ring. Sheeta's on the Tron, back and forth. Camille's banned from ringside. It's just a lot of like next, next, next. Like, I don't know, man. This was a pretty weak show. If this is your go home show from your big show before AEW All Out, why are All In and All Out so close together? What kind of sense does that make? Jack Perry and the Young Bucks, they have, their little thing in the backstage and they're talking about Brian Danielson. So here you go. It's going to be Jack Perry against Brian Danielson. It's going to be a hell of a match. And then here's the final match, the AEW Trios champions, Pac, Claudio, and Wheeler Yuta. No mention of John Moxley. They beat Will Ospreay, Orange Cassidy, and Kyle O'Reilly. Here comes the Elite out when Brian Danielson goes to the ring to celebrate. BCC comes back. The Elite starts running. Now Claudio says, "Hey, let's wrestle for the belts. Me and Wheeler Yuta." So now you have your trios champions fighting it all out for the tag team championships. Like, just such a cluster. Like, how do you keep track of all this? They really don't make the belts feel special because they have so many champions like dipping into all these different storylines. It's just for somebody that understands it and gets the product, it like pisses me off, and it's so hard to like follow along for me. Imagine a casual fan, they're watching, it's like, what the hell is going on? I don't get this. But the saving grace of the night is what happened at the end. Contract signing in the middle of the ring, Swerve Strickland, Hangman Adam Page. And there was a video package earlier on in the show of Swerve Strickland buying his childhood home. Really really nice piece there. Prince Nana was there. It was good stuff. I like that a lot, and you're seeing a reality to Swerve Strickland, and this is a very hotly contested rivalry between these two guys. They clearly don't like each other. I don't know if it's all work or a shoot or whatever, but just it seems like they hate each other. So you're wondering, all right, no confrontation, no physicality. They say for this contract signing, what's really going to happen? So Swerve makes his way out to the ring. Music for Hangman plays. No Hangman. Plays again. Still no Hangman. All of a sudden, you see Hangman on the big screen. And where is he? He's at Swerve's childhood home that he just bought because he signed a new contract with AEW. And then you kind of knew what was coming. And then eventually, Hangman has a gasoline can and he starts pouring out the gasoline as he's walking out of the house. He pours it on the floor next to him. He sits in like this chair, and then he's just talking smack to Swerve, lights the match, holds the match up, throws the match down. Boom. Before you know it, Swerve's childhood home is on fire. That was cinema. Amazing. That was incredible. For as bad as AEW Dynamite was tonight, they ended with the best storyline they have and the best segment that they had. I like this level of vitriol. Both these guys sold it to a T. Hangman sitting in the chair, just having a drink. Swerve freaking out in the ring. Prince Nana going, "Why? Why are you doing this?" And Swerve, the pain on his face. That was masterful. If the rest of the show was a 2 or a 3, that was a 9.8. That was really, really well done. Setting up that steel cage match. on Saturday, or is it Sunday, at All Out in Chicago. That should be a slobber knocker. All right, my final words before heading up to Tuscaloosa. We leave early tomorrow morning to head up to Tuscaloosa for Saturday night showdown between USF and Alabama. We'll be doing the show, or I'll be doing the show on Friday from Birmingham. Zach will be back in Tampa. But it's an exciting time for USF, not just because you're facing Alabama, but because you have Alex Golish at the helm. You have Byron Brown and a slew of good running backs with Teron Keith and Kelly Joyner and Naquan Wright. Unfortunately, Jalen Schuler will not be around for this game. He sustained an injury in the season opener against Bethune-Cookman. Good sign he's only going to be out for a couple weeks, but he'll be sorely missed against this Alabama team. Now, the defense is going to have to step up. That's going to be the big key. I think offensively, they'll put some points on the board, but defensively, they're going to have to find a way to slow down Jalen Milroe. And he is a guy that's a Heisman favorite. We didn't see him last year at Raymond James Stadium, but we're going to see a whole heck of a lot of him on Saturday night at Bryant-Denny Stadium. The Alabama Crimson Tide dedicate the field to Nick Saban. It doesn't look good for the USF Bulls. They're 31-point underdogs in this game to the Tide. But I just want to leave you with this. A lot of times in sports, when teams are raising a banner, getting their championship rings, dedicating a field, or having some big pomp and circumstance either before the game or at halftime, a lot of times there's a lot of energy that goes to that, and they don't perform up to their capabilities. I saw it myself years ago, the Lightning getting their rings, raising the banner, all this jazz, and they played the Penguins on opening night. And I said, man, Pittsburgh is going to get smacked. And what happened? The Pens actually came out, smacked the Lightning. Bolts had a better record that year at the end when all was said and done. But that one night, the Pittsburgh Penguins had the Tampa Bay Lightning's number. The USF Bulls don't need to have a better record than Alabama this year. They don't need to, be in a bigger bowl game. All they have to do is be better Saturday night by 1 point. They don't have to blow them out. It doesn't have to be pretty. They don't have to be better across the board. At the end of the night, all they need is to have one more point than Alabama. Now, there's a lot of people who think that I'm crazy because I said that months ago. I thought USF was going to beat Alabama. I think it's going to be a lot tougher with Jalen Schuler. And Alabama looked fantastic against Western Kentucky. USF, after, they didn't score on the first drive, but after that, put up 48. It's going to be a tall task. But if somehow, some way, South Florida is able to come out on top in this game, it'll be the biggest win in school history, without a doubt. They'll be a top 25 team, and they'll be squarely in the hunt when it comes to the American Athletic Conference. And I cannot wait because there's so few times in the recent history for the Tampa Bay or for USF where they've had an opportunity to do something like this, but they do. They have a shot to make some history and really shock some people. The number one story in sports this weekend would be USF. Think about that. 90,000 people there at Bryant-Denny. I cannot wait to be in attendance. Please follow me on all social media platforms at JRetro. Like and subscribe here on YouTube. I'll have all the coverage, Retro's Rapid Reaction, on the field after the game. It's going to be fun. I cannot wait. All right, I got to pack. I got to get up early because we leave for Tuscaloosa at 7 a.m. I love you all. I appreciate it. I'll try to do Retro Reacts in Alabama, but we shall see. Everybody have a great night. Appreciate you tuning in to Retro Reacts. We'll see you next time right here. Peace out.